Let's check in with one of our favorite guests. Mike Irwin usually joins us on these Mondays. Mike, what's up, buddy?
Well, we're, about 4 days away on Fridays when the first August camp starts. And we'll actually be talking about something that actually is happening instead of all this theory and, speculating and whatever.
Yeah.
I always looked all throughout my career. I always hated July because it was just talking and talking and talking, and you'd always look forward to camp. And so I guess here I am again. There's a lot of things we're going to be watching out there. We're going to try to see if Taylen Green really looks different. He says he's different. He listed all those reasons at media days about how he's different. He's more into X's and O's. He's more disciplined. There's going to be less improvising and more, and I don't know who it was. Somebody, one of the media guys ran a really good comparison last year where he showed a play where it was absolutely a called play. They worked on it all week in practice, and Taylen Green was supposed to throw to this guy who was wide open. And he was so wide open, the offensive linemen were standing there. I think it was DJ Williams that did this, and they were standing there pointing at this guy, throw it to him, and he ignored him and tried to run and didn't gain anything. And then about 2 plays later, he took a play that he was supposed to run. He improvised. He almost got to the line of scrimmage. He had an open field where he could have run for another 20 yards, but he stopped right at the line of scrimmage and threw a pass to Isaac Tesla, and it was like a 65-yard touchdown. So it was like what he wasn't supposed to do, he did, and it worked, but what he was supposed to do, it didn't work. So they're going to try to turn that around, and we'll see whether that works. There's a lot of questions about the running game, whether that's going to work. All this, be paying a lot of attention to this offensive line. It's bigger. It's more experienced. They brought in some guys that started at other places at the Division I level, at the Power 4 level. So we'll see if that's better. And then a lot of people will be watching the secondary. Sam Pittman claims it's better, but there's a lot of inexperience back there. Linebackers where they're supposed to be strong. So all of this stuff we'll be looking at. It could be interesting.
Yeah, there's no question that most of the time, and we were talking about this last week a little bit, Taylen Green's so athletic that when he does get flushed or anything happens, instead of maybe just staying in the pocket and finding your hot receiver, he just takes off running because that's what he's been successful at, and because he is so athletic. And I guess the question is, I'm with you, Mike. What does this running game look like? If the running game's better, then I think this offense is really going to explode this year. Are we going to be a 12 personnel zone one cut run, or do you think with Braylon Russell you're trying to do some more pull a guard and run more power type runs?
Well, I think they'll do both. The more varied you can be, the better it is. But it still all boils down to 2 things: blocking, and then the back has to find the hole and go. It can't run to the wrong place or get confused or whatever. But if you have a running game, it makes the passing game work. And it can work the other way around. Your passing game can open up your running game. But the point is you can't be one-dimensional. And we'll see if that happens. So all of that is interesting. I don't know if you guys saw that presidential order by President Trump, which was sort of affirming the revenue-sharing plan. But both Hunter Yurachek, the AD, and John Calipari came out in support of it, said it will really help. But a lot of people are confused about what that meant. And as I read it, it sounds like, when I was told that Tom Tuberville, who's now a U.S. Senator, and Nick Saban got together with Trump and were explaining to him that if somebody doesn't do something, these lawsuits that they anticipate over NIL could destroy this whole thing and leave us back where we've been, because there have been no rules for several years. And this is an attempt to have rules. And they're going to pay players, but the school is going to pay them, not these boosters. The boosters will if you get an NIL deal, it has to be a true NIL. It's got to be, if a player endorses a business and they give him $500,000, they have to prove that that endorsement is actually worth that to the business, and in most cases it's not. But they anticipate lawsuits when they deny them this large NIL. I think Deloitte, the company that's been hired to look at these NIL deals, they're going to have to go into court and say, look, here's why we reduced this NIL from $5 million to $250,000. And if they can do it effectively, then it will stand up in court. But right now, nobody knows where this thing is going to go. And I think if you've got Congress, House of Representatives, a federal judge who approved all of this, and you have the President of the United States all saying, yeah, this is good, then they think they've got a better chance of winning any of these lawsuits that come up. But, guys, something's got to happen, because we can't just continue to have no rules where you can just bid as much money as you want, and you can steal players from other schools. You can, we just saw Texas Tech right before the deadline. They got this offensive lineman that everybody wanted because Tech has this billionaire that's giving all kinds of money to them right now, and they just bought the kid, gave him a huge amount of money. So we'll see how this goes.
So if you have, and this is kind of where I don't understand why we're not there, but like, let's say you have a salary cap, you have a union, you have contracts that don't expire after 6 months, and then it's a pay for play. Why those four things? Why are those not, any of those things not, like, we're going away from those? I don't understand it.
Well, you would have pay for play within the school. The athletic department has, but it's got a cap. Mm-hmm. So you got $20.5 million to spend on everything. And most schools are going to spend most of their money on football, some on basketball, maybe a little bit on baseball. But the cap is the key because it prevents you from having so much you got more money than the other guy. Like if Ole Miss has all this collective money, and so they can look at a good Arkansas player and say, what if this kid from Warren, this 6'6", 230-pound kid that's a freshman, what if he has a great freshman year? And Ole Miss is over there looking at that and go, well, just offer him more money. Well, right now you can do that. But if you've got a salary cap, you don't have any more money to offer than anybody else, except there will be NIL deals, which is separate. That's being paid for outside the athletic department. But the idea is, under revenue sharing, you got to pay somebody for an actual endorsement. I mean, if I endorsed a product, what would it be worth? 25 cents? Okay. You have to judge this based on, if you endorse a product, do you allow that product to be sold and cause that company to make $200 million, $20 million more because of it? Then you could be paid $15 million. But if you endorse a product and they give you $5 million as a quarterback, but your endorsement only produces $100,000 in extra sales, then that NIL deal is bogus. You're really just trying to buy the player. The endorsement is not real. So they're trying to determine that. And there are going to be lawsuits. And Deloitte, the company that's going to determine this, is going to have to go into court and say, we reduced this NIL deal because it's not worth that, and here's why it's not worth it.
Man, it sounds like it's a mess, and if not, it'll do till the mess gets here.
Yeah.
Cooperstown over the weekend, Ichiro, CC Sabathia, Billy Wagner, Dick Allen, Dave Parker, those five went in. Dick Allen, Dave Parker posthumously. Out of those five guys, Mike, and there's no wrong answer, they're all five Hall of Famers, is the clear cut, clear choice, is Ichiro, is that the career you would want, or any of those other guys would you think?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. I mean, you can split hairs on these things when you start talking about Hall of Fame. People start arguing. But the fact of the matter is, there are some people that you just know they belong there. Mm-hmm. These are the guys that go in on the first ballot, the first chance they get. I mean, guys, I'm so old that my first big hero was Ted Williams. You probably guys never heard of him in baseball. But when I was a little kid, my dad was a Cubs fan, and I knew that. He would listen to him on the radio all the time at our home in Texas. And I knew that he loved Ernie Banks. So I asked him one day, who's the best player in baseball? And he said, Ted Williams. And I knew that if he said Ted Williams, who was not only not a Cub, but he was in the American League, not the National League, and my dad said he was the best. He must be the best. So I started following him. And I only got to do that for 4 or 5 years till he retired. But I still think he's one of the greatest players that ever played. He had his career cut short because he had to fight in World War II and Korea. And so it reduced his home runs from what could have been 700 or 800 home runs to 520. And he had a career batting average of something like 340. And it could have been even higher because they took his best productive years away from him. So, you have your own reasons why you think somebody's the best of all time or why they should have gone in and that they're better in that class than other people. But you could argue that stuff all day long.
My first ever game, Mike, was I went with my grandfather to see the Cubs play. I was about 8 years old, and I remember him telling me how Stan Musial was the best hitter in Cardinals history. So they all got.
I got to meet him in a golf tournament not long before he died. Nice. And of course, he and Ted Williams were big rivals. And I was so impressed. I went up to him and I said, "Hey, I know you were a great player, but I was a Ted Williams fan. I always thought he was better than you." And he looked at me and said, "He was." I thought, wow, what a guy.
BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting action. And with baseball in full swing and football season right around the corner, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From MLB, UFC to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. BetOnline. The game starts here.